Staff Sergeant Elena Foster had grease under her fingernails and engine oil stains on her uniform when the emergency alarm shattered the pre-dawn quiet at Falcon Ridge Air Base. For 18 months, she'd been maintaining helicopters while the pilots treated her like she was invisible, just another mechanic who happened to be female in a job they assumed she couldn't handle. They had no idea that Elena held a commercial pilot's license, had logged over 800 flight hours, and had been denied transfer to flight training 3 times due to personnel requirements. When enemy forces shot down a medical evacuation helicopter deep in hostile territory, leaving 12 wounded soldiers stranded with no rescue possible, Elena made a decision that would prove everyone wrong about what mechanics could accomplish when lives hung in the balance. The alarm's piercing wail cut through the Colorado mountain air at 0347 hours, transforming the peaceful pre-dawn maintenance shift into organized chaos that sent personnel running toward emergency stations throughout Falcon Ridge Air Base. Staff Sergeant Elena Foster was completing routine hydraulic system checks on a UH-60M Blackhawk when the emergency klaxon began its relentless cycle that meant lives were in immediate danger somewhere within the theater of operations. Elena wiped hydraulic fluid from her hands with practiced efficiency while listening to the urgent announcements that filled the maintenance hangar through speakers positioned throughout the facility. At 26 years old, she represented the most skilled helicopter mechanic in the squadron, capable of diagnosing and repairing complex systems that other technicians couldn't understand. But to the pilots who flew the aircraft she maintained, Elena was essentially invisible, just another support personnel who happened to be female in a traditionally male occupation. Attention all personnel, medical evacuation, helicopter down in hostile territory. All available pilots report to Operations Center immediately. Elena secured her tools and joined the stream of maintenance personnel moving toward the Operations Center, knowing her role would be limited to preparing backup aircraft for deployment while the pilots conducted whatever rescue mission was developing. For 18 months, she had watched from the sidelines as flight crews received recognition for missions that depended entirely on her mechanical expertise to keep their aircraft operational. The Operations Center buzzed with controlled urgency as intelligence officers coordinated communication streams while updating tactical displays that showed real-time information about the crisis developing in enemy territory. Major Patricia Hendricks, the squadron operations officer, stood before assembled personnel with expression that reflected command decisions involving life and death consequences for American personnel trapped behind enemy lines. At 0322 hours, Dustoff 7-3, conducting routine medical evacuation, was engaged by enemy forces using shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles, Major Hendricks announced while pointing to tactical displays showing last known position of the downed aircraft. Aircraft went down in hostile territory approximately 47 kilometers northeast of our position. Crew status unknown. Patient load. 8 wounded soldiers requiring immediate medical attention. Elena positioned herself among maintenance personnel while absorbing tactical information that described scenarios she had encountered only through training exercises and classroom instruction. Enemy territory meant anti-aircraft systems, hostile ground forces, and operational conditions that challenged even experienced combat pilots under optimal circumstances. "Sir, what's our rescue capability?" asked Captain James Morrison, the squadron's senior pilot. "Limited. Captain Stevens is deployed on classified mission, return date indefinite. Major Thompson is grounded with medical issues requiring minimum 72 hours clearance. Lieutenant Rodriguez suffered concussion during yesterday's hard landing, medical hold pending evaluation." Major Hendricks reviewed available personnel, while enemy forces continued operating in areas that made immediate rescue increasingly difficult with each passing minute. The tactical situation favored hostile elements who could reinforce their positions, while American rescue attempts faced coordinated opposition. Additionally, Hendricks continued while studying personnel rosters. "Our backup aircraft are experiencing maintenance issues. Blackhawk 77 Delta has primary rotor assembly problems requiring minimum 4 hours repair. Black Hawk 77 Echo has hydraulic leaks that haven't been cleared for flight operations. Elena felt growing concern as she realized the squadron's rescue capability was severely limited by a combination of personnel shortages and mechanical issues that prevented immediate deployment of backup aircraft. The maintenance problems mentioned by Major Hendricks were systems she had been working to resolve, but standard repair procedures required time that wounded soldiers didn't have. "Ma'am," Elena stepped forward before fully considering implications of interrupting senior officers during emergency briefing. "Black Hawk 77 Bravo is fully operational. I completed all maintenance requirements 3 hours ago and signed off on all systems." Major Hendricks looked at Elena with expression that mixed acknowledgement with dismissal. "Thank you, Sergeant. We're aware that 77 Bravo is mechanically sound. Our limitation is qualified pilots, not available aircraft. Ma'am, with respect, those soldiers need immediate evacuation. How long before backup pilots become available?" "Sergeant Foster, minimum 6 hours before we can deploy qualified rescue crew, possibly longer depending on enemy activity in the operational area." Elena absorbed this information while calculating survival probability for wounded personnel who required immediate medical attention but faced 6-hour delay before rescue attempts could begin. Combat medical training had taught her that traumatic injuries became fatal without intervention that exceeded field medicine capabilities. The tactical radio crackled with transmission that filled the operations center with desperate urgency. Any station, this is Dustoff 7-3 actual. We have 8 critical casualties and 4 crew members at grid reference 44 Alpha 7. Enemy forces advancing on our position. Request immediate extraction. Repeat, immediate extraction required." The transmission confirmed that survivors existed at crash site, but faced enemy forces that would prevent successful rescue unless immediate action eliminated hostile threats while evacuating wounded personnel. Each minute of delay increased probability that enemy elements would establish positions, making rescue impossible. Elena made a decision that would either end her military career or prove that sometimes unconventional solutions produced results that conventional approaches couldn't achieve. "Ma'am, I can fly that helicopter." The operations center fell silent as every officer and NCO turned toward the mechanic who had just claimed capability that seemed impossible given her job classification. Major Hendricks stared at Elena with expression that mixed disbelief with irritation about interruptions during crisis planning. "Sergeant Foster, your aircraft maintenance, we need qualified pilots for combat rescue operations." "Ma'am, I hold commercial pilot certificate with instrument rating and helicopter endorsement, over 800 flight hours civilian experience. I've applied for military pilot training 3 times. Your requests were denied due to personnel requirements and squadron needs and maintenance operations." "Yes, ma'am. But those wounded soldiers can't wait for personnel policies to provide qualified pilots." Major Hendricks reviewed Elena's personnel file through computer terminals while calculating risks involved in deploying non-military pilot for combat rescue mission that exceeded civilian flight experience by significant margins. Standard protocol prohibited unauthorized personnel from operating military aircraft, but standard protocol assumed availability of qualified pilots currently absent from duty roster. "Sergeant, combat rescue operations require tactical flying experience that civilian training doesn't provide. You've never conducted hostile fire operations, never operated military avionics systems, never experienced combat conditions that separate qualified pilots from casual aviators." Elena maintained professional composure while internally processing challenges that would determine whether she could successfully transition civilian flight experience into military combat operations under conditions that tested human capabilities against mechanical limitations. "Ma'am, I understand the mission parameters exceed my official qualifications, but I know that aircraft better than anyone else on this base. I've maintained every system, tested every component, and certified every repair for 18 months. If mechanical problems develop during flight, I can diagnose and repair issues that would ground other pilots." The argument represented practical consideration that balanced Elena's unconventional qualifications against operational requirements that demanded both piloting skills and mechanical expertise under conditions where equipment failure could prove fatal to rescue mission success. Major Hendricks studied tactical displays while weighing decision that violated established protocols, but offered only available option for immediate rescue of personnel whose survival depended on rapid intervention that conventional resources couldn't provide. Sergeant Foster, unauthorized operation of military aircraft constitutes serious offense that could result in court-martial and dishonorable discharge. Yes, ma'am. I understand the consequences. Additionally, combat rescue operations involve hostile fire, terrain challenges, and tactical requirements that exceed civilian flight training by significant margins. Ma'am, those soldiers are dying while we discuss qualification requirements. The radio transmission interrupted their conversation with update that confirmed enemy forces were consolidating positions around crash site. Any station, this is Dustoff 7-3. Enemy contact intensifying. 2 additional casualties from hostile fire. Request immediate air support and medical evacuation. Cannot maintain position much longer. Major Hendricks looked at Elena while making command decision that balanced regulatory compliance against operational necessity, when perfect solutions didn't exist within available time frame. Sergeant Foster, you are not authorized for combat flight operations. However, you are authorized to conduct aircraft systems testing that requires engine operation and control verification. Elena understood the carefully worded authorization that provided legal framework for actions that would either save lives or result in court-martial proceedings depending on mission outcome. Major Hendricks was offering opportunity while maintaining official deniability that protected command authority from regulatory violations. Ma'am, I understand my authorization for systems testing. Sergeant, ensure all aircraft systems receive thorough testing, extended testing, whatever duration proves necessary for complete systems verification. Within 20 minutes, Elena was conducting pre-flight inspection of Black Hawk 77 Bravo with attention to detail that reflected both mechanical expertise and flight preparation for mission that would test every aspect of her civilian training under military combat conditions. The aircraft represented technological sophistication that exceeded civilian helicopters through avionics systems, defensive equipment, and performance capabilities designed specifically for combat rescue operations. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres approached with medical equipment and expression, reflecting someone who understood risks facing personnel attempting rescue operations without conventional qualifications. Torres had served as flight medic for 3 years and had seen enough combat rescues to appreciate challenges that awaited inexperienced pilots operating in hostile territory. Elena, I heard what you're planning to do. Are you sure about this? Mike, those soldiers don't have alternatives. Either I try to get them out or they die waiting for backup pilots. Combat flying is different from civilian operations. Enemy fire, terrain obstacles, tactical maneuvering that pushes aircraft beyond normal capabilities. Elena continued pre-flight checks while absorbing advice from someone whose combat experience provided perspective she lacked. Torres had survived missions that tested aircrew capabilities under conditions that challenged training, equipment, and human judgment simultaneously. What should I know about combat rescue that civilian training doesn't cover? Expect everything to go wrong. Plan for equipment failures, enemy fire, wounded passengers who complicate flight operations. Trust your mechanical knowledge when avionics systems fail. Most importantly, fly the aircraft. Don't let tactical situation overwhelm basic piloting skills. Torres helped Elena familiarize herself with military communication equipment, emergency medical supplies, and defensive systems that hadn't been part of civilian training, but would be essential for mission success under hostile conditions. Elena, I'm going with you. Medical evacuation requires trained medic to stabilize casualties during transport. Mike, you could face disciplinary action for participating in unauthorized flight operations. Those soldiers need medical attention I can provide. Some risks are worth accepting when lives depend on professional competence rather than regulatory compliance. The Black Hawk's twin T-700GE-701C engines spun up with familiar whine that Elena had heard thousands of times during maintenance operations, but never from pilot's seat preparing for actual mission. She settled into flight controls while reviewing procedures that transformed theoretical knowledge into practical application under conditions that allowed no margin for error. Tower, this is Black Hawk 77 Bravo conducting extended systems testing. Request clearance for comprehensive flight evaluation. 77 Bravo Tower, cleared for systems testing. No restrictions on flight parameters during evaluation procedures. The authorization provided official framework for flight operations that would either prove Elena's capabilities or result in catastrophic failure that endangered additional personnel while failing to rescue soldiers depending on immediate assistance. Elena lifted Black Hawk 77 Bravo from Falcon Ridge Air Base while transitioning from maintenance technician to combat pilot through necessity that challenged institutional assumptions about qualification requirements and personnel utilization under emergency conditions. The flight toward crash site coordinates took her over terrain that represented transition from familiar training environment to hostile territory, where enemy forces operated without restriction, while American rescue attempts faced coordinated opposition designed to prevent successful evacuation of wounded personnel. But as Elena navigated toward grid reference 44 Alpha 7, something remarkable began happening. The complex requirements of military flight operations triggered responses that felt like recognition rather than learning. Her mechanical knowledge of helicopter systems provided intuitive understanding of aircraft capabilities that exceeded what civilian training had taught about theoretical performance limitations. Dustoff 7-3. This is Black Hawk 77 Bravo en route to your position. ETA approximately 12 minutes. What's your tactical situation? 77 Bravo, Dustoff 7-3 actual. Enemy forces established positions north and west of our location, taking sporadic small arms fire. 8 patients requiring immediate evacuation, 2 critical, 6 urgent. 4 crew members ambulatory but wounded. The tactical information confirmed Elena would be landing an area actively contested by enemy forces who possessed capability to engage rescue aircraft during vulnerable landing and loading phases. Success required precision flying that minimized exposure time while allowing medical personnel to load casualties under hostile fire conditions. Through Black Hawk's advanced avionics, Elena could observe terrain features that provided both challenges and opportunities for tactical approach to crash site. Enemy positions were likely established on elevated ground that provided observation and fields of fire against helicopters conducting rescue operations. Dustoff 7-3-77 Bravo. I'm going to conduct low-level approach from southeast to minimize exposure to enemy positions. Have your patients prepared for immediate loading. Ground time will be minimal. 7-7. Bravo. Understand tactical approach. Be advised enemy forces have demonstrated anti-aircraft capability. Recommend maximum caution during final approach. Elena acknowledged transmission while calculating approach parameters that would provide optimal balance between speed, accuracy, and defensive maneuvering that could counter enemy fire during most vulnerable phase of rescue operations. The crash site appeared through morning haze as Elena descended toward landing zone that represented intersection of tactical necessity and mechanical precision under conditions that tested both civilian training and intuitive understanding of helicopter capabilities that exceeded academic knowledge. Enemy muzzle flashes marked positions where hostile forces engaged her aircraft with automatic weapons fire, while she conducted final approach that required steady hands despite bullets impacting around Black Hawk's fuselage. Elena maintained precise control while experiencing combat conditions that civilian training couldn't simulate, but mechanical expertise helped her understand as systems challenges rather than overwhelming tactical problems. Taking fire from multiple positions, Torres reported while monitoring aircraft systems for damage indicators. No critical hits detected, but they're tracking our approach. Elena adjusted flight path while conducting evasive maneuvers that utilized terrain features to break enemy targeting solutions while maintaining approach accuracy necessary for successful landing adjacent to wounded personnel who depended on her flight precision for survival. The landing required coordination of multiple factors simultaneously: rotor clearance from debris and terrain obstacles, positioning that allowed casualty loading while providing some protection from enemy fire, and engine management that kept aircraft ready for immediate departure when loading completed. Dustoff 7377, Bravo on ground. Begin casualty loading immediately. Medical personnel and surviving aircrew moved with practiced efficiency while transferring wounded soldiers whose injuries confirmed urgency that had driven this high-risk rescue mission. Elena maintained engine power while monitoring tactical situation that could deteriorate rapidly if enemy forces coordinated assault against stationary helicopter. Torres worked with ground medics to stabilize casualties during loading procedures that balanced medical requirements against time constraints imposed by hostile fire that increased in intensity and accuracy as enemy forces adjusted their firing positions. Critical patient secured, Torres reported through intercom. 6 urgent casualties loaded. 2 ambulatory patients and aircrew boarding now. Elena watched tactical displays while calculating timing that would optimize passenger loading against increasing enemy fire that threatened aircraft systems essential for successful departure. Each additional minute on ground provided enemy forces better targeting solutions while reducing probability of successful extraction. All personnel loaded, Torres announced while securing medical equipment and conducting rapid assessment of casualties whose survival depended on immediate transport to advanced medical facilities. Critical patients stable, ready for immediate departure. Elena increased engine power while initiating takeoff sequence that would transition Black Hawk from vulnerable ground target to aircraft capable of defensive maneuvering that could counter enemy fire through speed, altitude, and tactical flying that exceeded predictable flight patterns. The departure required maximum performance from both aircraft and pilot as enemy automatic weapons concentrated fire on climbing helicopter, while Elena conducted evasive maneuvers designed to prevent hostile marksmen from maintaining tracking solutions necessary for effective engagement. But instead of feeling overwhelmed by combat conditions she had never experienced, Elena found herself responding with tactical awareness that seemed inherited rather than learned. Her mechanical understanding of helicopter capabilities provided foundation for flight techniques that utilized aircraft systems beyond normal operational parameters while maintaining safety margins necessary for mission success. Outstanding flying, Torres observed while monitoring patients whose medical requirements demanded stable flight conditions despite tactical maneuvering necessary to avoid enemy fire. Where did you learn combat evasion techniques? I didn't learn them. The aircraft systems tell me what's possible, and tactical situation determines what's necessary. The flight toward Falcon Ridge medical facilities provided opportunity to assess casualties while maintaining flight parameters that ensured rapid transport without compromising patient care that required steady conditions for emergency medical procedures. How are they doing? Elena asked while monitoring fuel consumption and navigation systems that would guide them to advanced trauma facilities. 2 critical patients are stable but need immediate surgery. 6 urgent cases will survive with proper medical attention. Aircrew members have non-life-threatening injuries but require treatment. Elena increased airspeed while calculating flight paths that minimize transport time without exceeding aircraft operational limitations or compromising medical stability that wounded personnel required during critical transport phase. Falcon Ridge Medical, Black Hawk 77, Bravo inbound with 12 casualties from combat rescue. Request immediate preparation of trauma teams in surgical facilities. 77 Bravo, Falcon Ridge Medical, trauma team standing by. You are cleared for direct approach to medical facilities. Priority landing authorized. The approach to Falcon Ridge Air Base represented successful completion of combat rescue mission that had challenged every assumption about qualification requirements and personnel capabilities under emergency conditions that demanded performance exceeding institutional expectations. As Elena touched down outside medical facilities, trauma teams rushed forward with equipment and expertise that would determine ultimate success of rescue mission that had required unconventional solutions to impossible problems. All casualties to Trauma Bay immediately, Dr. Amanda Martinez announced while medical teams transferred wounded soldiers to surgical facilities equipped for advanced trauma care. Outstanding work getting them here so quickly. But Elena's achievement extended beyond successful mission completion to demonstration that individual excellence could transcend institutional limitations when circumstances demanded innovative solutions to challenges that conventional resources couldn't address. Major Hendricks approached Elena's aircraft with expression that mixed official recognition with personal respect for mechanic who had proven that sometimes the most effective pilots were those who understood aircraft as mechanical systems rather than just flight platforms. Sergeant Foster, that was exceptional performance under conditions that challenge experienced combat pilots. Where did you develop tactical flying skills that exceeded civilian training requirements? Ma'am, mechanical knowledge of aircraft systems provided understanding of capabilities that flight training treats as theoretical limitations. When mission requirements exceed normal parameters, system knowledge becomes tactical advantage. Explain. Ma'am, I know exactly what this helicopter can do because I've maintained every component that determines performance. Flight training teaches pilots to operate within safe margins, but emergency conditions require understanding maximum capabilities that mechanics learn through system maintenance and repair. Major Hendricks reviewed mission footage while attempting to understand how maintenance technician had achieved combat rescue effectiveness that exceeded performance parameters established by qualified pilots during similar operations. Sergeant, your tactical execution included low-level maneuvering, combat evasion, and precision landing under hostile fire that required skills typically developed through extensive combat experience. Ma'am, tactical requirements seemed logical based on aircraft capabilities and enemy limitations. Terrain masking to avoid detection, speed and altitude changes to prevent targeting, precision control to achieve mission objectives. That's advanced tactical thinking that exceeds civilian flight training. Elena paused while considering response that would explain intuitive understanding that had emerged during mission execution. Ma'am, maybe knowing how aircraft systems work provides different perspective than knowing how to operate flight controls. Mechanics understand what's possible. Pilots learn what's procedure. The debriefing continued with intelligence officers analyzing Elena's mission performance, while medical personnel confirmed successful evacuation of all casualties whose survival depended on rescue operations that conventional resources couldn't provide within required time frame. Sergeant Foster, Colonel William Jackson, base commander, reviewed mission reports that documented performance exceeding assessment parameters for both combat rescue operations and individual pilot capabilities under hostile conditions. Sir, your unauthorized flight operations violated several regulations while saving 12 lives that would have been lost waiting for conventional rescue resources. Elena maintained military bearing while preparing for disciplinary action that could result from successful mission that had been conducted outside established protocols and authorization procedures. Sir, I understood the regulatory risks when I volunteered for the mission. Sergeant, your actions represent both regulatory violation and exceptional performance that achieved mission success under conditions that defeated conventional approaches. Colonel Jackson reviewed documentation while weighing disciplinary requirements against operational results that had validated unconventional solutions to emergency situations requiring innovative approaches. Effective immediately, you are relieved of maintenance duties pending investigation of unauthorized flight operations. Elena felt disappointment at disciplinary action that would end her military career, despite successful mission that had saved 12 lives through performance that exceeded qualified pilots' capabilities under identical conditions. Additionally, Colonel Jackson continued while reviewing personnel files. You are hereby assigned to Flight Training Program with immediate commencement of military pilot qualification. Your civilian certifications and demonstrated combat capabilities indicate exceptional potential that should be developed through appropriate channels. The assignment represented recognition that Elena's achievement had demonstrated qualifications that exceeded institutional assessment methods while proving that individual excellence could emerge through unconventional paths when circumstances demanded maximum performance. Sir, thank you for this opportunity. Sergeant, you proved that sometimes the best pilot available isn't the one with the most military flight training. It's the one who understands the aircraft well enough to exceed normal limitations when mission success requires exceptional performance. 6 months later, Lieutenant Elena Foster graduated first in her military flight training class while maintaining her mechanical expertise that provided unique foundation for piloting skills that exceeded conventional assessment parameters. Her instructors noted exceptional understanding of aircraft systems that enhanced flight capabilities beyond normal training outcomes. Foster, Captain Morrison approached during graduation ceremony. I owe you an apology. We underestimated your capabilities based on job classification rather than recognizing potential that exceeded our assumptions about mechanic versus pilot qualifications. No apology necessary, sir. Different perspectives can be advantages when conventional approaches prove insufficient. Elena's story became case study in military training programs that examined relationships between mechanical expertise and flight capabilities, while challenging assumptions about personnel development and career specialization that might limit individual potential. The 12 soldiers whose lives she had saved during unauthorized rescue mission became testament to value of unconventional solutions when institutional resources proved inadequate for emergency conditions that demanded innovative approaches to impossible challenges. Her transition from mechanic to pilot demonstrated that excellence often emerged through paths that challenged established procedures, while proving individual capabilities could transcend institutional limitations when circumstances required maximum performance under conditions that tested human potential against technological possibilities. The Black Hawk helicopter that Elena had maintained for 18 months became symbol of integration between mechanical understanding and flight capabilities that achieved results exceeding either specialization individually, while proving that sometimes the most effective solutions emerged when technical knowledge met operational necessity under conditions that demanded innovation rather than convention. Staff Sergeant Elena Foster had entered that morning as invisible mechanic, whose capabilities were dismissed by pilots who flew aircraft she maintained. She emerged as pilot whose achievement would influence military training while proving that individual excellence could challenge institutional assumptions about qualification requirements and personnel utilization. When mission success demanded performance that exceeded every limitation, except determination and will to save lives regardless of regulatory constraints or conventional wisdom about who could fly military aircraft under impossible conditions. The combat rescue mission that should have been impossible for mechanic became proof that sometimes the person who knows how to fix the aircraft also knows exactly how to fly it, when everything depends on understanding capabilities that exceed normal limitations through knowledge that transcends academic training to achieve practical results under conditions that separate competent personnel from those whose achievements become legendary examples of excellence applied when circumstances demand maximum human performance. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.